There is a pattern hidden inside the lives of the greatest people who ever walked this earth. Not their victories, not their achievements. Something that came before all of that, something most people never talk about because it's uncomfortable. Every single one of them, without exception, was first completely broken. We have been raised to believe that pain is a sign that something went wrong, that if life gets hard, you made a mistake, that suffering is punishment for something you did or didn't do or should have done differently. This idea is everywhere, in the way we speak, in the way we comfort each other, in the quiet shame we carry when things fall apart. And it is one of the most destructive lies ever passed down to us. Because what if suffering isn't a sign that you were abandoned? What if it's a sign that you were selected? Think about what gold actually goes through to become gold. It doesn't start as something beautiful. It starts buried deep underground, surrounded by rock and dirt, indistinguishable from everything around it. And then it's pulled from the earth and thrown into fire. Extreme, sustained, unrelenting heat. Everything that is not gold burns away. Everything weak, everything impure, everything that doesn't belong, gone. What remains after the fire is the real thing. Not despite the fire, because of it. Steel works the same way. A soft piece of iron, heated to temperatures that would destroy most materials. Hammered repeatedly, folded back on itself, compressed under enormous force. Not once. Over and over again. Each pass through the fire makes it harder than it was before. The sword that can cut through anything had to be struck 1,000 times before anyone would trust it with anything that mattered. Your life is not different from this process. It just feels different because you're inside it. Researchers who study post-traumatic growth, the phenomenon where people emerge from severe hardship, not just recovered, but fundamentally stronger, found something that quietly changes how you see everything. It is not the people who never suffered who develop the deepest capacity for compassion. It is the ones who suffered and didn't quit. It is not the people who were never afraid who developed the ability to comfort others in fear. It is the ones who were terrified, stayed anyway, and came through the other side with something they could never have built in comfort. There's something profound about the way hardship selects for wisdom. A person who has never lost anything cannot fully understand what it costs to keep going. They can read the words. They can nod at the right moments. But there is a depth of understanding that only comes from having had something ripped away from you and choosing in that devastation to still believe that the story wasn't over. Every major tradition of human thought across every civilization in history has arrived independently at the same conclusion, that the people who carry the heaviest burdens were not given those burdens by accident. There was always a reason, not a cruel reason, not a punishing reason, a preparing reason. Trees that grow in environments with no wind develop what biologists call weak wood. They grow fast, but they cannot support themselves. It is specifically the trees that are pushed and bent by storms that develop a denser, stronger grain. The internal structure needed to survive anything. A greenhouse tree, perfectly protected from every stress, will collapse the moment it faces the real world. The tree that grew in wind knows how to hold. You are being prepared for something. You may not know what it is yet. You may not see it from where you're standing. But the pattern is consistent across too many lives, too many centuries, too many completely different human stories for it to be coincidence. The people who were forged by hardship became the ones others ran to when their world collapsed, because they had the one thing no comfort could manufacture, the knowledge that it was survivable. Here is what no one tells you about being tested. The test doesn't care about your performance. It cares about your direction. The test is not asking whether you can do this perfectly. It is asking whether, when things are at their worst, you will choose to continue. That's it. That's the entire exam. Will you keep going? Not gracefully, not without fear, not without pain. Just, will you keep going? Because the person who keeps going, imperfectly, shakily, with doubt still loud in their chest, that person is being built. Something is happening inside them that cannot happen any other way. A kind of internal architecture is being constructed, beam by beam in the darkness. And when the weight comes again, and it always comes again for everyone, this person will not be surprised by it. They will recognize it. They will know what they are made of because they have already seen what they are made of. The people who suffer the most and become bitter did not suffer more than the people who suffered and became wise. They suffered the same amount. What was different was the meaning they gave it. The bitter person decided the suffering proved they were worthless or forgotten or cursed. The wise person decided the suffering was preparing them for something they couldn't see yet. Same pain, different conclusion, completely different life. This is not toxic optimism. It is not a performance of positivity. It is the most honest accounting of what human suffering actually produces when a person refuses to let it be meaningless. You are allowed to feel every inch of what you're feeling. The grief, the exhaustion, the anger, all of it. None of it disqualifies you. None of it means you are losing. What it means, if you let it mean something, is that you are being shaped into someone who cannot be shaped any other way. There is something that the people who came through the worst things always seem to carry. It is not ease. It is not the absence of difficulty. It is a quiet certainty that is almost impossible to explain to someone who has never experienced it. A knowledge, deep and unshakable, that they survived something, and that survival means something, that they were not broken by it, that they were changed by it, and that the change, as painful as it was real and permanent, in theirs. You were not broken. You were being built. The test was not a sign that you were abandoned. It was the opposite. It was proof that something believed you were capable of carrying it. The hard life you are living, or the hard chapter you have just come through, was not given to someone who would collapse under it. It was given to you, and there is no version of that which is accidental.